Hi, I'm Kevin O'Connor, and welcome back to Ask This Old House, where we'll go anywhere to answer your home improvement questions. Today,
I'm going to teach a homeowner how to tame this unruly hedge.
Wow, it really does open up the front of the house.
I'm going to help a homeowner install this brand new storm door.
And I'm going to teach you everything there is to know about copper pipe.
We've lived in our building for 5 years now. We have a front door that we don't really use.
We would love a screen door on the front of our house.
In the summer, we love to have fresh air coming in and out. We have 2 little boys.
Having the screen door would help a little bit keeping our boys inside. And then also in the winters, this is a fairly drafty door.
So there are certain things I wouldn't trust Josh to do. Anything that's related to plumbing or electricity or...
Doors, perhaps?
Maybe doors.
What we have is a white aluminum storm door. In the wintertime, it'll have one piece of glass. In the summertime, it'll have one screen. Now, what we want to do is figure out which way we want the door to swing. And I would say, because you have a stairway there, we want the door to open this way. So you can come up the stairs and walk into the house. Now, this is called a hinged right. The way you refer to that is you put your back against the hinges of the door, and this swings to the right. That makes it a hinged right. Now that we know all that, let's take you down to the sawhorses and I'll show you what's next. Okay, now I want to stand the door up on its edge like that. Now, this is a jamb right here, and the jamb actually has 4 hinges attached to it, and there's also weather stripping. Now, because this is a hinged right door, this makes it the top of the door. The first thing I want to do is take the jamb, place it on the side of the door. Now I want to take the jamb and slide it up 1/8 of an inch past the top of the door, so I'll have some clearance. Now I want to keep the hinge in that position. I can now open it up and expose the other half of the hinge. Pull it down like that. And be careful not to slide it. Okay, let me check to make sure we're still 1/8 of an inch. We are. Now we're going to screw the hinge to the door, and I'm going to use these screws right here. This is actually a self-tapping screw. If you notice, right on the tip of the screw is a little drill bit. Now I take the screw, put it in the center of the hole, and drill it in. There's one. Now the second one, right in the center of the hole. The jamb on our aluminum door is going to sit right here on a trim. Now I have to know the length of the jamb, so I'm going to measure from the header down to the top of the threshold, and that's going to be 80 1/4. Now I want to subtract 1/4 of an inch for clearance, makes it 80 inches. Now the jamb from our aluminum storm door is going to sit right on top of this threshold, and that's on an angle. To get that angle, I'm going to use my sliding T-bevel. Hold it against the jamb, bring it down until the T-bevel hits the threshold. Let that follow the angle, and now I know the angle to cut my jamb. All right, that's our length. Now we have to mark for the angle. Put my T-bevel against the jamb, follow the angle, and cut it with a hacksaw. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Stay right on that line. There you go. Not as easy as it looks, is it?
Not as easy as it looks.
All right, now we can install the door into the opening. Now, whenever hanging a door, it's important that you hang the door plumb so it will swing right. So the first thing I want to do to check your existing jamb is take our door, put it in the opening, push it tight against the trim. I'm going to take my level and I'm going to hold it against the side of the jamb and see how it reads. I can see that the level is out of plumb. It tells me our existing trim is out of plumb. So now I have to slide the top of the door to the right, bringing it into plumb. That looks pretty good right there. Now I can install a screw in that hole, holding the door plumb. All right, this is the header that's going to run across the top of the door. It has the screw holes in it, and it also has weather stripping. Now what we're going to do is open the door, slide it in back like this, sliding it over to the jamb on the side here, picking it up on top of it. Close the door, and now you can see that 1/8 inch gap that I created by keeping the side jamb long. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to just push the header up just a little, maintain my space evenly across the top of the door. Pre-drill a hole. Install another screw. My last screw. Now we're ready to install the jamb on the right side of the door. Now I had to cut this one to length also using my hacksaw, and I also marked the angle for the threshold. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put it into place. I'm going to close the door on it, and I want to make sure that the space between the jamb and the door is consistent all the way down. Now I'm going to start at the top. Drill a hole. Now I'm going to put a screw in. Just a few more screws on the inside of the jamb. Now to fill the space under the door, we're going to use this expander right here. We'll actually slip right around the door. On the bottom, there's 2 pieces of weather stripping to keep the cold air out. All right, here's a little trick I like to do. On the bottom of the expander, where the weather stripping sits in this slot, it can actually slide out on its own. To keep it tight so it won't slide out of the track easily, what I like to do is take this part of the channel right here with my screwdriver, just hit it with my hammer and bend it over just a little bit. Slide the expander under the door. Push it up. Now close the door. Push it down onto the threshold. Now we'll just screw the expander in place on the inside of the door. Okay. And that's it for the striker plate.
Looks good, Tom.
Okay, Josh, now to make sure that the door closes on its own, we're going to use these door closers, one on the top and one on the bottom. Let's start at the bottom. Now that our bracket is in position, I'm going to take the closer, put it into the bracket, put the pin into position. Now I want to put a little bit of tension on it, so I'm going to pull it out a little bit and lock it. To attach it to the door, I'm going to pre-drill some holes for some screws. Now we're ready to put the screen in. Right here on the door, there's this little piece sticking out. That's a tongue. On this side of the screen is a groove. We actually slide the groove into the tongue, push it into place, and drop the handle. And now you have a screen door.
And for the colder winter months, we can just switch in the
Right,
glass.
and to remove it, you push this lever up, push the handle up, pull out the screen, and drop in the glass the same way. As simple as that.
Great, well this is wonderful, Tommy, and not a moment too soon on this hot summer day. We'll really enjoy it.
Well, it was my pleasure, Liz.
Thank you.
Richard, when it comes to plumbing, we are seeing more of this stuff, PEX and other plastics. But the reality is copper is still with us and it's not going anywhere.
Absolutely. Since the post-war era of the 50s, copper has really been king historically, and it's still the principal way that water is conveyed through a building. Now, copper will be used for water supply. It'll be used for heating, hydronic heating, radiators or baseboard. And in the old days, it was used for drain work in larger sizes, but not anymore.
Well, it's expensive, right? So
That's
we wouldn't
right.
be putting that much copper.
So we see PVC and some cast iron.
All right.
Today I thought I would take you through some of the basics of copper, and it starts with the type of pipe. Now copper comes in either hard drawn or stiff sticks like this. It can be 10 feet long or 20 feet long, or soft drawn copper in a coil.
All right.
Okay? Now there's different grades of copper, and you can tell by the outside coloring. I don't know if you can see that, but there's blue right here, and this is called type L, and that's the heavier gauge, and the red is type M. Now look on this end view. You can see this sidewall is thinner.
Wait, so this is the same outside dimension, but we've got a different inside dimension?
Absolutely, a little less copper on the sidewall. Now in many jurisdictions, this red, the M, is not allowed for potable water because they're concerned about the velocity of the water going through this pipe could erode the thin sidewall.
What could we use it for?
Well, for heating work.
Oh, because there's not a lot of velocity to that. All right.
So this is 1/2 inch. This is 3/4 inch right here, and there's also 1 inch, 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch, and 2 inch.
So these are the lengths, the straight runs, but
That's
we
right.
ultimately have to make the connections, the turns, the
Sooner or
bends
later.
and such.
So some of the basic fittings. This is the heart of any plumbing system. This is a 90-degree elbow. Fitting by fitting. The pipe goes into here and goes into here.
Right.
All right, so that allows you to do all sorts of bends.
And look at all the options of all these different
That's right.
things right here. How do you keep
Now,
these things straight?
Well, here, I'm going to take you through it. Now, this is one that's a 90-degree elbow, but I don't know if you can see it, but this is fitting, and this is actually the same size as a pipe, so it allows you to put this inside, so it makes a tight little bend, and this is called a street fitting or a fit fitting. So this would be called a 1/2 inch fit elbow.
So 1/2 inch for the dimension, fit meaning...
It goes inside the fitting.
All right.
All right. Now, this is the same in 3/4, and this is the fit elbow in 3/4. Now, they also make a 45-degree angle, and that's pretty handy for, say we're running along here, we want to jump up and get over another pipe. And so here's a fitting by fitting 45-degree angle, but this is the one that's the street or fit 45, so that fits inside.
So now we're talking about being able to make bends or turns and such, and it looks like here you've got some transitions from one size to another.
That's right. If we're going to have two of the same size pieces of pipe coming together, there's a coupling. This happens to be a 3/4 coupling.
So you can just join
Okay,
two
yeah.
straight runs like that.
Yeah, and if we're going to reduce, we would go 3/4 by 1/2, and they actually also make an adapter that turns at the elbow, so there's 3/4 by 1/2
All right.
coupling.
Those are elbows. These are, you call them T's?
Well, sooner or later, you're going to need a T, okay? So this is a 1/2 inch copper T, and one trick about a T is that you want to read the T or identify it according to the run and then the branch.
Well, no, what do you mean by identify it?
Okay, so this would be called a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch copper T. So we just call it a 1/2 inch copper T. But when you have different sizes, we would read this first. So this is a 3/4 by 3/4 by 1/2. Because these are the same, we would just shorten it to a 3/4 by 1/2 copper T.
So run first and then the branch
That's right.
second.
So if you're sent to the supply house to get this, you could make a mistake and get this, and that doesn't work for you, because this is 1/2 by 3/4 if you read this backwards. You see the difference?
So I've got to get it actually in the right order. 3/4 by 1/2, not 1/2 by 3/4.
Right. We would send you back and you'd be in trouble.
You're going to send me back
That's
anyway,
right.
no matter what I come back with.
They also make a transition where it's 3/4 and then it's 3/4 by 1/2 by 3/4, so you can do that smaller branch on the bend.
Now all of these connections are going to be solder joints.
That's right.
Whereas these, you start to get into a threaded joint.
Well, sooner or later you need to tie onto something that might have a thread. So they make these fittings. This is a 1/2 inch copper by female, and that means that the thread fits inside. So here's a male thread right here on this outdoor faucet. And they'd be pipe dope or Teflon,
Right.
and that goes on here, and you can solder right onto that point.
And you call it 1/2 inch by female. You don't even identify thread?
That's right, copper by female or copper by male, because that thread's inside.
So a lot of different terminology.
Right.
But I guess it helps to know it when you go buy this stuff.
Now, what we always want to do is to sort of understand the basics, how to solder properly and how to cut the pipe. So let's start with cutting pipe.
Here, I'll get
Just move that out, okay? Now, anytime you use a cutter like this, it has a cutter blade, and when you go around, it can actually slightly deform the end of the copper pipe.
Right.
So the cutter itself has a blade on it, and that allows you to ream the pipe. Go like this. All right, and that can take away the deformation. Now, if you're doing a lot of copper work, they make a reaming tool like this, and that's pretty handy. Now, reaming ensures that the water flows more smoothly through the pipe. All right, so now once we've done that, we need to clean both the pipe and the fitting. So they make emery cloth. Now, emery cloth, you can shine the outside of the pipe, okay? But you also can use the emery cloth rolled up to clean the inside of the fitting, okay? They also make a terrific brush that'll do the same. This is for inside the fitting, and this is for the outside of the pipe.
Okay, so now we're all clean.
It's all clean. Now it's time to apply flux. And the flux gets applied to both the pipe and the inside of the fitting. And the flux is important. The solder will not bond without it. So now it's time to solder. I'm going to apply heat to one side of the fitting. You don't want too much heat, and you wait for that flux to bubble. And when it's done, it's always good to wipe the joint.
All right, well, a lot to know about copper. Thank you, Richard.
All right.
Jane's got a beautiful flower garden, but nobody would know it.
We've invested a lot of time and a lot of hours of pruning to create these beautiful flowers here. But even our neighbor across the street can't enjoy it because this hedge has just become so overgrown. So basically I want to cut this down by half. So you've got some visibility into the garden, but I'm really not quite sure how to do that without killing it off entirely or just having a bunch of, leggy stumps left.
Roger's breaking out the power equipment, and will leave Jane with the front yard she's been dreaming of.
Jane, the good news is we can lower this hedge. Now, this is a hedge made up of privet. Privet is a fast-growing plant you commonly see used as a hedge around the edge of properties. Now, the good news for us is we're going to be able to take this down to the height you want, but if you look inside this hedge, you'll see all the stems that make up the hedge. Now, if you're a lopper or a hand pruner, you'd have to cut each one of these individually. You'd be here forever cutting the thousands of them that make up this 40 or 50-foot run. I have seen landscapers use a chainsaw to cut the hedge with. It leaves a very ragged cut because it pulls at the stems, and it's probably not the safest way to use a chainsaw. So what we're going to use to cut the hedge down is this gas-powered commercial-grade hedge trimmer. You can see these openings. It's going to allow us to cut several large branches at one time. So we're just going to take it and run right down the hedge and trim it off nice and neat. These are going to give us a nice clean cut, but before we get started, I want to set a string line for our height. To give us the perfect height, we're going to drive stakes in and then attach a string line to it. So I'm going to put one here, and I want you to put one down next to the brick walk down there. Lean it out just a little bit when you bang it in so it'll stay away from the hedge, so when we put the string on, it won't get all caught up in the hedge. Try this one. Don't miss, okay? Good. Okay, a couple more to go in down here. Grab that one behind you. Okay, one more to go. So Jane, what are you thinking of for a final height on your hedge?
Well, I definitely want it low enough that you can see into the flowered beds there. Probably something around here.
Okay, so that's 34 inches. That sounds pretty good to me. What I want to do now is go around and mark all the stakes at 34, and then we'll tie the string line on.
Okay.
I'm just going to put a mark right there. Now what I want you to do is go down the line and mark them all at 34, and I'll come behind you with a string line.
Okay.
Okay, we'll run it right down. Wrap right around here. And just wrap it on here again. All right, so I'm going to tie it off here because we're going to cut this so we can get in and out the walkway. Finally, we're ready to get cutting.
Sounds good.
Now, if you look at our hedge trimmers, you can see that we have two blades with sharp edges that bypass each other, and that's what makes the cut. In the front is a plastic shield, and that's going to protect your hand from those sharp blades. We're going to go up here to the end. We're going to level the shears off with our line, and we're going to start our cut. Now, if you look closely, you'll see where the machine made a nice clean cut, and that's great for the plant. A clean cut will heal real quickly. A raggedy cut will rot and cause problems with the plant. Now, if you look at the top of this hedge, you can see where someone's run their trimmer over the top of the hedge. I hate that because what it does is it makes all the growth come up in the top, blocking sunlight from getting down into the plant, so you have a bare plant in the middle.
So I don't like the way this looks now. How long before I'm going to get some growth here?
Well, now we got all the sunlight streaming in there. Immediately, these buds are going to start to develop, and within a couple of months, it'll look like a brand new hedge. So what do you think? You ready to give it a try?
Okay.
Come on down the end, we'll see how you do. Keep it pretty level like that, okay? You're going to give it full throttle. All right? Keep it going full throttle and just work your way through. Got it? You ready for the other side?
Oh boy, that's hard work.
The hedge trimmers are good for a branch up to about 3/4 of an inch thick. Once you get up to an inch or better, it's time for a pair of long-handle bypass loppers. Well, it looks a little ratty right now, but like a bad haircut, it's all gonna grow back in.
You don't think we've gone too low then?
No, I think it's the perfect height. In 2 or 3 months, it's gonna fill in, and now you can see the front of your house.
Wow, it really does open up the front of the house. You can see all the tulips and all those flowering beds in the summer. Thank you so much, Roger. It's a huge improvement.
My pleasure. I had a great time.
So Roger, you usually suggest that we don't use a hedge trimmer when we're working on a bush like that.
Right, when you do your maintenance using a hedge trimmer, you cut the top, it gets real thick on the top. No sunlight gets in, it gets dead in the middle. But when you use a hedge trimmer on this privet, it did the perfect job cutting them off at that height.
Well, on a privet though, would you use it on sort of any large bush?
No, if you did that to a yew, it could take 4 to 5 years for it to come back and actually grow out again.
Wow.
Yeah, but how long did it take for that bush to grow back?
We did that job a couple months ago. I went by the other day, and it looks beautiful.
Oh, great.
Really?
All right. Well, keep your letters and your emails coming because we'd love to hear from you. And until next time, I'm Kevin O'Connor
I'm Roger Cook.
I'm Richard Trethewey.
And I'm Tom Silva.
for Ask This Old House. So I bet you she had a ball just chopping those things down.
was fun.